Hi, and welcome to Terry Talks Movies. This time around, we're looking at the stuff that I watched in July 2025. And there's a fair bit of it. Some of it's good, some of it's less good. But let's get started with this. Boom. Jason and the Argonauts, directed by Don Chaffee. And it's a banger. We all know the movie, but I picked up the lenticular Blu-ray of it. And so I thought I'd give it a real watch. Interesting cast too, because it goes from the sublime to the ridiculous. You got people like Niall McGuinness in there. You have Honor Blackman, Patrick Troughton, Tom Baker. So you've got two Doctor Who's in there. And then you get Todd Armstrong and Nancy Kovacs, who are piss poor and ordinary, really, as the two protagonists, Medea and Jason. And both of them had to have their voices dubbed. I watched it. The Ray Harryhausen special effects are fantastic, of course, particularly Talos. Talos just kicks ass all the way around. It's nice to have a premium edition of it because it is one of those movies. And again, I'm in that nostalgia trap where things I watched when I was a kid really hit for me. And Jason and the Argonauts is definitely one of them. Then I watched something that was recommended to me by somebody on the channel, The White Reindeer. And I picked up the recently released Blu-ray of that. And it's a Finnish horror movie from 1952. And it says, a newly married woman becomes frustrated with her husband, a reindeer herder from an Arctic village. He spends time away from home. Desperate for affection, she visits a shaman who offers a potion that makes her irresistibly desirable. But also she turns into a kind of vampire reindeer. It's a very odd little film from Finland. But the locations and the acting is fantastic. And the supernatural thing with the shaman really works. It's unlike any other film. It really lands well because of that locations and because it is part of Finnish mythology. And the way it conveys that is fantastic. It's all on snowy tundras where people need reindeer to survive and run around on skis. It's got such a vibe, a little bit like V and Black Sabbath, the Mario Bava film. It's got a little bit of the feel of those two, while it is in glorious black and white. No one's a recommend from me. You should watch that one. Let's flip over to the next page. I watched Carry On Screaming, which I have a copy of, but I watched it on Tubi, and it just hit. Well, I love the fact that it's a bit different for a Carry On movie. And Kenneth Williams does well. Jim Dale's in there. Harry H. Corbett, who was the star of the movie, basically because Sid James wasn't available, particularly on the kind of wages they were offering. It's a lot of fun. And Fenella Fielding playing the vampy sister of Kenneth Williams' character is quite good as well. Joan Sims is in there. Bernard Bresslaw, Peter Butterworth. It just works, and I think it's probably top tier Carry On movie because it has a different feel about it. The scripting is funny. Kenneth Williams is campy and vampy all at the same time. It just works, and I enjoyed rewatching that one. It's got a good theme song as well, which I put on my Spotify playlist for last month. Then I watched Heads of State, where Idris Elba plays the UK Prime Minister, and John Cena plays the US president, and they've got to go up against powerful enemies who have destroyed Air Force One, and everybody thinks that the two world leaders have died, but they've escaped and they've got to come and beat the bad guys. It works in a weird way. It's not a great film. It's definitely a streaming programmer, but it has a lot of fun to it. Neither of the leads take themselves seriously, which is good. If you want just a meathead action film, there are a lot worse ones out there at the moment than Heads of State. Bit of fun, but not to be taken at all seriously. Then, of course, I saw Superman, and I've talked about that on the channel, directed by James Gunn. It's still being talked about online. Social media is still having a lot of wow about Superman, particularly with Dean Cain coming out as an ICE agent and a force for evil in the world. That's definitely given David Corenswet a boost in the ratings of people who've played Superman. I don't think I'll need to see it again, but I do want to try to get a copy of it on physical media. when it comes out. I'll try to get the 4K if it's not too expensive, but if it is, I'll just go with a solid Blu-ray. Then I watched The Return, which is a story of Odysseus, directed by Umberto Pasolini, and it stars Ralph Fiennes and Juliette Binoche as Odysseus and his wife, whose name I've got, Penelope, I think. He comes back after many years and many travels and has to try to reclaim his throne, even though there are a lot of suitors for his wife, and everybody's claiming that Odysseus is dead, but he's not. And then you get that thing where he's got to shoot an arrow with a bow nobody else can string. He's got to shoot arrows through 10 axe handles because only Odysseus could do that. It's rock solid. You do get to see Ralph Fiennes' dick, which is in context a bit of nudity that's appropriate. And Juliette Binoche is fantastic in it. Ralph Fiennes is very good in it as well. I think this is a little bit of a sleeper. And if you haven't seen it, you might want to check it out. I don't know whether it's on any streaming services yet, but it is rock solid for me. And it's got a very bare bones feel about it. It's not ponced up the way 300 was. It's definitely a gritty little island that they live on, and that Odysseus comes back to claim what is his. Then I did Leadbelly, which is the last month's imprint Blu-rays. A story of Hoodie Ledbetter, folk singer, played by Roger E. Mosley. It's also got Paul Benjamin and Madge Sinclair. I've raved about this movie, and I did tell a couple of people about it, including John Harrison, who's just written a book about Kiss. And John liked the movie after I recommended it, and he watched it. Early 20th century story, made into a movie in 1976, directed by Gordon Parks, who directed Shaft. This one you got to check out. It really is rock solid, and it's so full of that Jim Crow era racism and disadvantage for black people. There's a scene where Hoodie Ledbetter is being chased after he escapes from a chain gang, and it's heartbreaking. Then I saw Looking for Mr. Goodbar down at Cinemaniacs at the Astor Theatre, and it's such a great film. Diane Keaton's best role, arguably. And it's got a lot of other heavy hitters in there as well. William Atherton's in there, Tuesday World, Richard Kiley, Tom Berenger's in there, and Richard Gere in a very un-Richard Gere role in the modern age. But Looking for Mr. Goodbar, the movie ended and everybody was stunned into silence. It hit hard for the people watching it. And it was just one of those theatrical experiences when you go to the cinema and something happens. And in this case, it's a stunned silence from the audience. A couple of people tried to applaud because they usually applaud at the end of Cinemaniacs sessions. But then they realized it doesn't seem right to do that. A really interesting reaction, and it's a very, very good film. Then I watched The Sword and the Sorcerer because it was on streaming service. One of Albert Pyun's movies starring Lee Horsley, Kathleen Bella, Simon McCorkindale, George Maharis in one of his last roles, and I like George Maharis as an actor. A mercenary with a three-bladed sword rediscovers his royal heritage when he's recruited to help a princess, foil a brutal tyrant and a powerful sorcerer who plans to conquer the land. I'm looking past the camera, which is on a gimbal, so it's a little hard to see the wording on this. Dumb fun. It's a dumb fun 1980s sword and sorcery movie. Does have a little bit of nudity in it, which I'm not unhappy about. And if you like this kind of movie, you like this kind of movie. And it's a bit like The Beastmaster, but on a slightly lower budget. I enjoyed it. Then we got Fantomas Unmasked, which is a documentary about Fantomas, the Fantomas movies and the Fantomas novels, which is quite good. It's in French and it's got subtitles, but it kind of works. And if you want an overview of Fantomas before you watch the Fantomas movies, and I really recommend you watch the ones with Jean Marais in them, because it really is an interesting set of movies and an interesting intellectual property for cinema, which has still got some legs in it. Then I watched The Sentinel because when I was at Cinemaniacs, I won a copy of it on Blu-ray. It was just a Cinema Cult Blu-ray, which is bare bones as hell. And it stars Christina Rains and Chris Sarandon, Martin Balsam's in there, John Carradine, Jose Ferrer, Ava Gardner, Arthur Kennedy, Burgess Meredith, Sylvia Miles. And it's about a woman who moves into an apartment building full of weird people. And what she doesn't know is that it is the gate to hell. She ends up fighting the baddies. Directed by Michael Winner, who was often known for dragging actors who are circling the drain, out of the drain to make a movie. It's got some nudity in it. It's also got Beverly D'Angelo in her first role, and she does some very interesting things in this movie. I'm kind of glad I got a copy of it, and looking down the cast list, you got people like Richard Dreyfuss in there and William Hickey and Jeff Goldblum in an early role. So there's a lot of future heavy hitters who turned up in the Sentinel, and it was one of those satanic padding kind of movies from the 70s, and it worked well for me. Then I watched The Atomic Man. I've talked about that on the channel. Guy who is about 7 seconds into, 7.5 seconds ahead of us in time. A bit of fun. Good acting by Peter Arndt in particular. I also watched The Electronic Monster, which I talked about on the channel. Well, another movie which has some weird things going on. And then I watched the worst Western of all time, Roy Orbison's Western, The Fastest Guitar Alive, with Sammy Jackson and Roy Orbison, who play spies for the Confederacy right at the end of the Civil War, who do a big robbery to help fund the Confederacy. And then the war ends, and they've got to find out what to do with the money. Bad. Roy Orbison can't act, but he can sing, and there are a couple of songs in there that really hit. And anytime they put the guitar in Roy Orbison's hands and he's not shooting people with it, because the guitar is actually a rifle as well, it works. But it doesn't work in every other part of the movie. It's atrociously bad. It was bad in 1968 when I saw it at the cinema, and it's bad now. So, buyer beware on that one. Next up, I watched Meet Cute, which has Pete Davidson and Kaylee Cuoco in it, about a young woman who finds that a tanning salon is a time machine. And she wants to date this guy and keeps looping back to date him. It's not good. I watched it and I just thought, it's not good. And Pete Davidson is not somebody who should be in movies. Then I watched a movie called Caged, which is kinky as hell. It's from 2011. It is very much a feminist, erotic thriller kind of movie. Not for everybody, but I watched it. And to say I enjoyed it's probably not accurate, but I understood it. Then I watched Enter the Clones of Bruce Lee, which is a documentary about all of the Bruce Lee clone movies that came out after Bruce Lee died. And all of the actors who were in them, people like Dragon Lee, the director Godfrey Ho's in there, Angela Mal-Ying gets interviewed, a whole bunch of different actors who were the clones of Bruce Lee in cinema. And they all seem to be reasonable people with reasonable attitudes to their life and careers. It's kind of nice to see these guys in these cheesy movies and then find out that in later life they've got their shit together and they seem to be quite nice people. Then I watched Mancunian Man, which is a documentary from 2023 by Jake West about Cliff Twemlow, who was a nightclub bouncer in Manchester, who made low-budget movies for himself in order to get a career as a star, and it never actually hit. And he made a whole bunch of low-budget action films on VHS, which didn't hit. And he died at an early age because he was pumping the steroids to keep young and active, and it didn't work out. But he made a bunch of movies, and he was quite well liked by his friends and family, even though when the steroids really grabbed him, he became not as nice a person as he was previously. It's a cautionary tale as much as anything else, and kind of interesting movie about a very marginal character in cinema. Then I watched Mau Mau Sex Sex, which is about Dan Sonny and Dave Friedman, who made a whole bunch of exploitation films in the 50s and 60s. And these guys are very old. They get interviewed. Frank Henenlotter interviews them as well and talks about their movies. And they're kind of very, very old. And it's not too long before both of them died. But it's talking about their movies and how they were hucksters selling racy films and saucy films. to the American audience in an era when censorship and the local law was always after them. It's kind of a sweet one because they're both nice guys in their own way, and their wives are very tolerant of them. Mau Mau Sex is, if you're into exploitation cinema, you want to check that one out. The Affairs of Dobie Gillis with Bobby Van, Debbie Reynolds, Barbara Ruick, and Bob Fosse, and it is a little bit of a hidden gem of a musical. There's some really great dancing and singing in it. It's a lot of fun. Was the movie that was spun off into the TV series The Many Loves of Dobie Gillis with Dwayne Hickman and Tuesday Weld and Bob Denver. And I liked it more than I thought I would. It really surprised me at how engaging this movie was. So I watched that as well. Then I watched 13 Women. Now, I'm not going to tell you much about 13 Women because this is an incredible hidden gem. And as the thing says, 13 women who are schoolmates asked a swarming to cast their horoscopes. The news they receive is not good for any of them. It's one of the first serial killer movies, and the serial killer is a mixed race woman played by Myrna Loy, who is basically gaslighting all of these women into ending their own lives. And it's a short film, and it ends on an incredible scene where the comeuppance happens to Myrna Loy's character. This one needs to get like an imprint release or something like that. It is mind-blowingly weird and interesting. And I heard about it from somewhere. Someone mentioned it. But 13 Women, if you can find a copy of it, and you might need to look for a torrent or something, is an amazing film. Then I watched The Fantastic Four First Steps, and I loved it. A lot of fun. I want to see more Fantastic Four movies. And it hit that moment in time in history as well, where people want something optimistic and something that isn't gloomy and pessimistic and corrupted the way much of the top end of American society is at the moment. And so people have bonded to this film in a way that I haven't seen with a Marvel movie because of that 1960s Camelot in Washington, D.C. era vibe that the movie has. It's really great. Max Shackman does a great job of it. The ensemble cast, Pedro Pascal, Vanessa Kirby, Eben Bosman-Bacharach, and Joseph Quinn really landed. And Ralph Ineson as Galactus gives us quite a scary Galactus. So I enjoyed that one, and I'll probably watch it again soon. Then I watched Larry Cohen's Full Moon High, with Anna Markham playing a guy who's bitten by a werewolf and comes back to his hometown 20 years later. Because he is affected by the werewolf, he doesn't age. And all the people he went to school with are middle-aged now. And their kids are in the high school that he attends because nobody believes he's not the same guy's son. It's a weird film and one of the few blatant comedies that Larry Cohen did. Good cast too. Ed McMahon's in, Alan Arkin, Jim J. Bullock, Elizabeth Hartman's in there. Julius Harris, Kenneth Mars playing a very sleazy sports coach. Yeah, I kind of like this. I don't think it's the best comedy ever, but I kind of like it because it's subversive and weird. Then I watched The Manxman, 1929 Alfred Hitchcock movie, which I talked about on the official Imprint podcast with the boys. And I talked about it. We were looking at what's coming up with Imprint, and they're doing a lot of the early Hitchcock movies. And then I turned over. There's a weird station on my Samsung TV. A bunch of stations called, what's it called? Samsung TV Plus. And one of the channels shows movies that are in public domain or they can get away with showing. And they just happen to have The Manxman on there. So I watched it just after the titles rolled at the start. And it's kind of interesting. A fisherman and a rising lawyer who grew up together as brothers fall in love with the same woman. It's got a really interesting feel about it. And the love triangle at the center of the movie is not as love triangles are now. There's a definite, I love this man, but I'm married to this other man kind of feel about it. Yeah, if you get a chance to see The Manxman, you might want to check it out. It's a silent era movie, but it works. Then I watched Iron Man 3 because it's the best Iron Man movie, directed by Shane Black. I think it's the best role as Iron Man for Robert Downey Jr. And it's got Don Cheadle, and of course Gwyneth Paltrow, Guy Pearce playing the villain, Rebecca Hall, Ben Kingsley playing maybe the Mandarin, also known as Trevor Slattery. I like this, and I think the action scenes are really well done as well. It's very underrated in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Then I watched Drop, directed by Christopher Landon. It stars Megan Faye and Brendan Sklenar. It's about a widowed mother who's back in the dating pool again. She had a very abusive husband who ended himself. And she arrives at an upscale restaurant, and she finds out the guy in her blind date is very charming and wonderful. But she keeps getting messages by airdrop to her phone where they're showing her that they can kill her kid if she doesn't do exactly what they say, and they want her to kill Henry, the date she's on. I like this one. It's a very tight thriller. It uses contemporary social media and technologies to tell an interesting story, and the way she tries to get away from this person who has very good reasons, but evil reasons, for wanting her to do this is quite interesting. And she knows that the person is somewhere in the restaurant, but she doesn't know who it is. You want to check that one out, I think. Then I watched Sneakers, directed by Phil Alden Robinson. 1990s kind of cyberpunky thing with Sidney Poitier, Robert Redford, David Strathairn, Dan Aykroyd, River Phoenix, Ben Kingsley playing the villain. I like this one. I like what it does. And I like the fact that it's very much on the side of, it's a lefty kind of movie as well, which I really appreciate. And I found a DVD copy of it. It's one of those movies that I've been trying to find a physical copy of, and I kept it on my list. And sure enough, eventually it turned up at an op shop, and I got it for $1. It's worth a revisit. It's worth a revisit. I think it's an honest little crime movie as much as anything. Then I watched The Sicilian Clan, which is great. Directed by Henri Verneuil. About a mobster's planning a diamond heist on an aeroplane. Stars Jean Gabon, Alain Delon, Lita Ventura. It's just such a tough, solid little crime flick. And the way they rob the aeroplane is incredibly cool as well. I just like this one. And it's got a killer soundtrack by Ennio Morricone, which, even if you can't find the movie, find the soundtrack. Then I watched Grafted, which I talked about when I talked about the latest Umbrella release. And I watched Ballerina, directed by Len Wiseman. It's set in the universe of John Wick with Ana de Armas playing another assassin. Keanu Reeves is in it because it predates the fourth John Wick movie. Ian McShane, Angelica Houston. It's not good. They had to do a lot of reshoots on it. Ana de Armas is fine in the movie, but it just doesn't have the right vibe for a John Wick universe movie, which was a bit disappointing, but that's how it happens. And I didn't talk about this last one, Doomed, the untold story of Roger Corman's The Fantastic Four by Marty Langford, where he interviews the people who were involved in that 1994 production of The Fantastic Four, which Roger Corman was asked to make by the people who had the rights to the movie and the intellectual property, and who wanted the movie made for $1 million just so they could keep the rights to it. It was never officially released. The original print of it is somewhere, but everybody has only ever seen a VHS dub of this movie. And the actors who are in there have a very philosophical viewpoint of it. They want the movie to be released, and they gave their all to the movie, and then suddenly it turned out to be just a businessman scam to keep the rights to the Fantastic Four. So that's what I've watched in the month of July 2025 while the weather has been shitty here in Australia. Let me know which of these movies you watch, which ones you want to watch. Hope you had a pen and paper handy so you could write things down. I should have mentioned that at the front end. All the usual things. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Leave a comment. Hit the notification bell. Do all that stuff. And I'll do this again for the month of August, where I'm watching 31 art house films. I've already watched some of them. Yeah, it's an interesting part of the channel just to see the kind of shit I watch, and sometimes the stuff that's not shit as well. But thank you very much for watching. All the usual things I've mentioned already. But if you want to support the channel, you can become a channel member on YouTube or become a patron at patreon.com/TerryTalksMovies. And every month you get one of my Spotify playlists full of groovy music. By the way, for people who asked, Sally, also known as Middle-Aged Good Girl, will be coming home and she'll be okay. So thank you to all the people who've sent love and support in comments on my last video. It's tough not having her around, but I do get to visit her every day at the hospital. And she's doing all the things she needs to do to make a full recovery from that. So I'm sending her my love in this video as well. So until next time, when I've got something else entirely, watch some good movies, watch some bad movies. Don't watch that Roy Orbison Western, you'll just rot your brain. And I'll catch you next time.